In chapter 1066 of One Piece, Oda pretty much 100% confirms that we're gonna be going to Elbaf. I know a couple fans were questioning that, but he's been laying the groundwork for this for 23 years, and I think with the latest chapter, it's pretty evident, and here's how. Giants have long had a prominent and ever-increasing role in the One Piece story, and I think going forward we should just expect that role to further increase. It's long been expected by fans that we're gonna go to Elbaf because 23 years ago it was essentially promised to us when we first met Dory and Broggy. And finally, after 23 years, it seems like Oda is finally having the Straw Hats visit one of the most highly anticipated islands in the story. And even better, it seems like it's going to be the convergence of multiple storylines in One Piece finally coming to a head on one island. So I expect it to be jam-packed. In the latest chapter, chapter 1066, we get even more hints that the Giants are deeply involved in the true history and the preservation of it. Things like the giant Straw Hat in the Holy Land, the legend of Oars and the term continent puller, Ace's connection with Oars Jr., Big Mom's extreme interest in allying with the Giants, Saul's connection with the scholars of Ohara, how their culture worships the sun, the government's desire to perfect gigantification, Luffy's fruit seemingly allowing gigantification, Shanks' apparent connection to Norse mythology and the Giants, and there's even more, but I'm just tired of listing stuff off. There has to be something that connects most of, if not all of these things, because it's too coincidental. So with all of this being said, I think it's 100% confirmed that we're going to Elbaf next, and it's going to be the next island after Egghead. We now know the bombshell that Saul is alive. And let me remind y'all, Saul is a D. His name is Jaguar D. Saul. So that sets up perfectly for a reunion with Robin and furthering our knowledge on the Void Century. Everything we don't get from Vegapunk, I think we should get there on Elbaf with Saul, where he basically has recreated the library of Ohara. And we might even meet some other survivors of Ohara. It's very unlikely, because I think Saul only survived because he was frozen in ice by Aokiji's ice time capsule. But maybe we find other people who were inspired by them or something there. And then we have Usopp, who even in this chapter took exception when Vegapunk said Elbaf. So I think that perfectly sets up for him visiting Elbaf, because it's long been promised for him as a part of his journey and dream to become a great warrior of the sea, a great adventurer. So it fits perfectly for him. I think it's going to be a really huge arc for Usopp. And then we have the connection with Harujin and his crew, which we find out in this chapter. If y'all did notice in the background, the giants who are pulling out the books from the lake, they're actually Hardin and his crew. So they have a connection with Saul, and then I'm guessing they kind of know something about the ancient history and the ancient text, and they're helping out with that. I think all giants have some kind of connection with that, and that's why they're kind of an independent nation. I think this 99.9% proves that the last road poneglyph is on the top of the giant tree, Giant Jack, the Yggdrasil tree in Elbaf. I think they've been protecting it for centuries. So this sets up perfectly to bring him back in the story and kind of reunite with the Straw Hats. And it also sets up perfectly with Big Mom, because Hardin knew Big Mom, his crew knew Big Mom when they were kids, and it sets up perfectly to bring her back in the story alive, where I think that'll kind of also connect with something else explosive, which is the Blackbeard pirates showing up in Elbaf to get that last lode poneglyph, and Pudding will be there, so that'll give Big Mom extra interest to show up there. And I think that'll be a big thing where we finally get that Joy Boy theory of Big Mom allying with the Straw Hats, or Big Mom's crew allying with the Straw Hats to get Pudding back. So I think this was set up nicely for a clash, or maybe even the final face-off of the Blackbeard Pirates and the Straw Hats there on Elbaf for the last lode Poneglyph. Winner of that battle wins. They get the last lode Poneglyph and the information, and the next island would be Laugh-Tale that they're going to go to, or Lodestar and then Laugh-Tale. So that would honestly be the perfect situation, unless Oda wants to do maybe a clash on Elbaf, and then that kind of fumbles over into Laugh-Tale, and they have maybe their final clash there. So yeah, guys, with all of these storylines lining up, it would set up to honestly be one of the best, if not the best, written One Piece arc ever. We could get the return of Lola, Chiffon, Beige, just so many pieces. And honestly, that's just a small part of what we got in chapter 1066. I mean, it's confirmed pretty much that Robin knows a shit ton and really hasn't told anybody in the story. Like, she pretty much admits that she knew that the scholars found out before that they were eradicated that the world was in the past now, and the past was actually an advanced civilization in that void century that no one knows about. So she's just not told anybody on the crew, or really anybody in the world, which you can attribute to what Dr. Vegapunk Shaka says in this chapter. He says anyone who knows this gets eradicated. So maybe she didn't tell her friends because she cares about them so much, and she doesn't want to put that burden on anyone. As we see throughout the story, that is a very, very heavy burden to carry. And you can see that burden that she's carrying throughout this chapter, as you see the emotion, the sadness in her face, the tears that roll down her face. It's really breathtaking, honestly. It was done very well. We don't see a lot of emotion from Robin too much. There's very rare moments. And if we do, it's most of the time involving Ohara, her homeland, the scholars, her mom, all of that. That's what gets the emotion. That's the truly heavy burden that cracks Robin's shell. So this chapter was very breathtaking and sad, emotional. I enjoyed this part immensely, and I love the way that the Shaka Vegapunk manipulated or kind of led the conversation. It was very dramatic the way Oda set that up. Even though he doesn't have a face, it gave a lot of emotion when he was looking back in like paneling. It just gave a lot of like tone and atmosphere, even though you couldn't even see his face. So I thought that was really powerful. I also want to mention one more mysterious thing. Dragon forms the revolutionaries 22 years ago, because this flashback is 22 years ago, where we meet the original Dr. Vegapunk, what he actually looks like with his giant nutsack looking head. And yeah, guys, I think me and Kayla are gonna do like a video where we talk about the ugliest or weirdest looking One Piece characters. That sounds fun, and she sounds interested in that, so look forward to that. But yeah, we find out 22 years ago, Dragon, Dr. Vegapunk, and everybody, the giants, they visit the island of Ohara after it's burned, months after it's burned, and they talk. And after this talk, Dragon goes on to form the Revolutionary Army with Ivankov and Bartholomew Kuma. So 22 years ago, that was 3 years before Luffy was born, and we learned that he was a freedom fighter even before that. So we know that it's not necessarily something like there's theories out there that maybe something happened to Luffy's mom, and that was the reason that Dragon went rogue, or that's the reason he defected and went against the world government. No, it was nothing like that. He had been against war and had kind of been against the government for a while, seems like. And Ohara is really what triggered him to create the Revolutionary Army and really make a change, because I think he saw the murdering of literally innocent people. They had done nothing wrong. They were not criminals. They were some of the greatest minds in the world, and they murdered them in cold blood just to hide their atrocities. So I think that's really made the change for him going to the Revolutionary Army. But that kind of disproves anything with Luffy's mom being the cause of him going against anything, especially her death, because Luffy wasn't born yet. So that's kind of curious. So he's already in the Revolutionary Army. So does he just go off on a break? He falls in love at 3 years after forming the Revolutionary Army, goes on a break or something to have a child, and then comes back and literally tells no one. Ivankov was his right-hand man. Kuma was too. I don't think Kuma knew until later. He might have told Kuma, I can't remember. But he never told Ivankov until way later. So, yeah, that part is interesting. Is that really his son? But Ivankov said he used to gaze out to the east and all of that, so that part really makes me curious. But it also gives me a lot of hope that we might get some more Luffy's mom information coming here, and Oda might not actually skip over that. That might be a part of Dragon's story. And with Dragon now kind of having some slight connection with maybe saving Saul because he saw the captain with the bandages and all of that, that would set him up to be on Elbaf later too. So it's very exciting. And then at the end of the chapter, we meet the real Dr. Vegapunk with his giant head missing. The current real Dr. Vegapunk with his giant head missing, now kind of cut down, replaced by an apple. And I'm guessing he split his brains into little chunks that maybe contain other parts of his personalities, and that's why all the different Vegapunks are different. They act different, and they're just parts of him. So they're just parts of his brains, like the logical side of his brain, and he's now, I feel like, the sillier side of his brain, and then there's the aggressive part of his brain and all of that. So he split his brain, and now he only has a certain part of his brain in his head now, and all the other Vegapunks have a part of their brain. I don't know how he did this, but yeah, it's crazy, guys. But yeah, I think that's it. Really, with the giant connection, and I think Elbaf coming up, it's gonna be crazy. I cannot wait. I'm so excited, and if you're excited too, then please smash that like button. Please hit the subscribe button. Please stay tuned for more videos. I post every week. I do Eden Zero, Blue Lock, One Piece content. So yeah, guys, hope you're having a beautiful day or night wherever y'all are in the world. I will catch y'all guys on the flip. Peace.